Hey everybody, it's Michael Black, founder of Success Tutoring, and I'm here with Isabelle Domes, Growth and Performance Manager for the USA.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Isabelle. We are here. We are in the USA.
Yes, finally.
We've definitely come a very long way, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's really good to have you today and be able to have a conversation about our expansion into the USA. Talk a little bit about Success Tutoring.
Yeah.
Because you were actually a manager at some point, weren't you?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me. But yeah, I used to manage the Liverpool Centre in Australia, and it was definitely quite an experience. Working there definitely had me wanting to work for you more. The company is really great, and I guess I really just like how the tutoring differs from other businesses. So
Yeah, fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to delving deep into that and talking more about Success Tutoring and the unique points. Let's just share with the viewers a little bit. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Did you grow up in the US? How did you end up being in Australia? Could you tell us a little bit of background there?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in the US, and my dad was in the military, so we moved around quite a bit. So I don't really have a home base speaking. Right now I'm located in Baltimore, but when I was about 16, we actually moved to Australia, and that's whenever I was working for you. So I got to finish high school there and do my first year of uni with you guys there. So it was such a beautiful country, a great experience.
Yeah, great.
But now I'm back in the US, and I'm still studying here, and kind of just seeing where life takes me. So
Yeah, so good, so good. And how did you end up? Because we were having a conversation before this. We were I was saying to you, it was quite a bit of time since, you've been working with us at the Liverpool Centre. But before that, what were you doing? You were a student at Success Tutoring?
Yeah, so I actually was a student with Success Tutoring in either year 11 or 12. I don't quite remember, but that was before we had the model that we have today. And it was still just a great of an experience. And it was a one-on-one tutoring session that I had for my high school certificate for economics. So
great. And who was the tutor?
Josephine.
Josephine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you joined Success Tutoring as a manager, were you then managing Josephine as part of your team?
Yeah. A bit ironic in that sense.
How was that?
She was great staff, very uplifting and encouraging, and she was really good with the students as well. It was definitely a bit awkward to go from being the student to being the manager, but we definitely had a great relationship develop from that. So
I think that's one thing that made Success Tutoring very unique and still does is hiring the young team members, right?
Yeah.
Vibrancy and yeah, it's not uncommon to see that the manager is oftentimes actually younger than the team members.
Yeah, but it's actually great because it actually makes the manager more relatable to the students, which creates a better atmosphere, I think.
Yeah,
so
fantastic. And did you enjoy your time as a manager?
I did. It was definitely probably my favorite job thus far, so it was great.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's hope this one, the new appointment as the as growth and performance manager for the USA, that becomes your top favorite position. Great. Yeah, great. And how long were you working as a manager at the Liverpool Centre for?
So it was nearly a year working with you there before I returned back to the US.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I'd say.
I think I left in 2023 actually, yeah.
And how many sites was Success Tutoring at that point?
I think you guys had about 5.
5 sites.
Yeah.
Okay, so very early days.
Yes.
And I remember very well that a lot of the things that we had at Success Tutoring, they were not very developed, were they? We were still building the foundations.
Yep.
I mean, one thing that I remember was there was a lot of brainstorming between you and I about things that we should implement, and we're talking about, dojo points and how to incentivize students and things like that. What do you think were some of the key milestones or achievements that we were able to achieve back then?
Yeah, so the role definitely allowed for a ton of creativity. That's one of the main reasons why I enjoyed that position so much. The couple of things that I guess really distinguished the different levels within us, like our classroom management, stuff like that, was the red and green cards that we implemented. It was very, very, I guess, useful for the tutors, but then also the students to communicate in sort of a one-way direction. So we created the little coasters where the students were able to, I guess, tell the tutors if they needed assistance or if something wasn't okay. So I think it's very useful.
Yeah, and I remember the time that you mentioned it. Do you remember that day? You're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Michael, we've got this thing," and I was like, What is this?"
Yeah.
Do you remember? And
Yeah.
then what was the? I think one of the first things I said to you was like, "This is so good. We should implement it." And then, do you remember that time I ended up ordering those? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
straight away.
coasters, yeah. And now they're across all centers and they're
Yeah.
still working really well.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah. We've
great.
definitely come a very long way, and there was like a lot of talking about like points. And do you remember the house colors as well that we were
Oh
talking about?
yeah, yeah.
We still haven't implemented that. I think
Re-
that's something that we should be looking at for
Yeah.
sure. You know, the students having different colors and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that would create like great camaraderie with the students as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So the dojo points were definitely a great invention. It's just a way to incentivize them and motivate them and keep them to coming back.
Yeah.
I think one of the couple things we had was like bringing in their water bottle or making sure they showed up on time and completing their lessons as well. So it was definitely great. And the students, one of the key things they'd always ask for when as soon as they came in was, "Oh, can I get a point? Can I get a point?" Or a lot of them were really hard workers and always striving to achieve a certain thing from the prize box. So I think it was wonderful.
I think that's something that makes success tutoring very unique. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, across all of our centers, we've got the words motivate, inspire, uplift. And I think
Yeah.
that really shines through, not just in the words in our centers, but also in what we deliver.
Yeah, especially in the staff as well. I think just because whenever you go through Success Academy, like we're always trained, to have that motivation and like that persona for the children. So
Yeah, like one thing, and I'm sure you might also remember this, is that every time, especially in the early days when I was doing a lot of the training for the staff, I always say build rapport first, then look for the results second, because when you build that rapport, the students love coming to the center, right?
Yep.
And then they build that relationship with the tutor, and then they can get the results that way.
Yeah, I think one of my fond memories of working in the center was the few students I would have that come in and just speak so excited to see me and just run straight for hugs, like because they just enjoyed seeing me on a daily basis. It's so sweet.
Yeah, I remember those. And, I will admit, shortly after you had left, I think that's when I stopped tutoring. I wasn't tutoring as much because I think at that point, that's when we really had the model down pat. And I was like, okay, now it's ready to step back and we're ready to scale. And since then, as you know, we've grown significantly, fast all across Australia and internationally as well. And we're in the US.
Yes, we're here.
Can you believe we're in the US right now?
Yeah, like 2-3 years ago, I wouldn't have expected this, but here we are.
Here we are. I mean, you started off as a student, then you became a manager, and now you're leading, one of the largest, countries in the world. Success Tutoring's growth.
Complete life cycle here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, can you tell me a bit more about the expansion that you guys have had so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've, since we've caught up last, and I think last time I saw you was actually in Sydney.
Yeah.
We've grown significantly. So we've sold over 100 territories all across Australia. We've expanded into New Zealand. We've got master rights in key other countries such as Canada, and we're looking at exploring other areas such as India, the UK, and Singapore.
Wow.
And the US is one of those where we're not really doing any master rights there. We're really focusing on building a very strong foundation, which is a direct HQ to franchise partner relationship. So, you joining the team and us working together, that's what, we've been able to do there. But the brand has exploded, Isabelle,
Yeah.
as you can see.
Yeah, it's quite amazing to see how, from a student, seeing how small the organization was to now, like business is booming. So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
It is. And I think one of the key reasons is because of that ability for us to innovate and come up with new ideas, especially in the early days. It was all about coming up with the better idea, or as opposed to just listening to the manager. It was always like, you came up with some really great ideas, I came up with great ideas. We even had some of the tutors come up with great ideas, and we're able to collaborate and come up with a really good model that works for everybody.
Yeah.
So we've definitely have grown a lot. So for those that don't actually know too much about Success Tutoring, could you give me like a bit of a background about what we do?
Yeah, so you actually founded Success Tutoring about 7 or 8 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just started in your parents' house, right? You have like a little center going on there, which I think is amazing.
It literally started in a 3x2 room, actually smaller than where we're actually shooting this podcast, and that's where the business started.
It's about meters, right?
What? Yeah,
About 2
meters.
meters.
We might have to convert that for the
Yeah.
US audience.
Yeah, about like 9 by 18 feet or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, quite small,
Yeah.
quite small, and you know we've grown not just in Sydney, but across the Australia and across the globe as well. So
Yeah.
it's really good to see, really awesome. So we'll give maybe the audience a little bit of a background about Success Tutoring and in terms of like what we offer. So would you be able to share your insights in terms of what we do at Success Tutoring and what makes us different?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at Success Tutoring, I think one of the most unique things about it is the fact that it's personalized, but then also based on the curriculum within the country that it's hosted. So, whether that's Australian curriculum or the US or even New Zealand. But the other thing I think that makes it very unique is the fact that it's similar to a gym membership, and that parents can sign their children up for a pass or a membership that's unique to them. So whether that's tutoring once a week for one session or twice a week for 2 sessions, or the unlimited package. And then also, I think one of the most creative things that you've come up with is the app, Michael. From the app, you know, the students and parents are able to book in sessions that work best for their schedule. So every single week is slightly different for each family. So I think it's amazing how they can just choose and select which sessions they want to attend each week.
I mean, these days, families are so busy, right?
Yeah.
Don't have time to do many things. And so having an app is really convenient because it allows parents to pick a location, pick a membership, and pay per week with no locking contracts. It's
Yeah.
like a gym, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's really nice that you can, I guess, pick and choose, just because, you know, one week people may be out of town, or another week like their children needs a lot of help because they have an upcoming exam or something. So I think it's really useful.
And it also makes it affordable.
Yeah, it is quite affordable as well. Yeah.
Like with cost of living crisis and, you know, or things getting very expensive and inflation going up, most families anyway, can't pay for a whole, term or semester.
Yeah.
So they're looking for that pay per week model.
Yeah. And I think something else that I really, I guess, admire about the business is the fact that it's personalized. You know, a lot of the times that we see in the school system is that children are just numbers. Like students, whether they're trying to get a certain mark, that way the school looks better, or like, you know, I don't know. It's just very unique. The fact that like we're actually targeting what the students are like need.
Yeah.
And that way we can improve their marks within school, or grades, as we say in the US.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a diagnostic assessment, which is based on the common US standards, which is student comes in, they do the assessment, and after the assessment, we build a personalized learning program for them. And what a lot of families actually ask, and they find out when they come into the center, is they ask, is it paper-based or is it online-based? And when I say it's paper-based, their eyes light up and they're like, okay, good. Because, you know, my child's been on the computer, they've been on the phone for too long, they're looking for that paper-based model.
Yeah, definitely. Technology has definitely become a distraction, but then also a resource for students today. But I think having that paper base is definitely very good and useful for them, especially because it makes it more interactive between the tutors and the students.
Yeah.
And I think something else that's pretty unique is the fact that the teachers and the tutors specifically, they have more like relationships with the parents themselves, and they see them more on a daily basis, so they can actively communicate with the parents as to how their students progressing. Whereas in the school system, typically they only have like a meeting maybe once every semester with the teacher to see how their students progressing.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we did very well, and we still do today, is that we update the parents after each lesson, and we show them what the child actually completed in that lesson.
Yeah, I think also the visual recognition of on the front of their binders, where they're able to see how they're progressing in their different units. So
yeah, I think that's very clever because it clearly shows what lessons the child's completed, and it gives the parents confidence as well in terms of, you know, how their child's progressing.
Yeah.
And then you've got the folders, but then you've also got the points, right?
Yes, the points.
So tell us about the points.
Let's just say the points are very desired. And sometimes the students will literally do anything to get a point, which is really great. But definitely keeps them motivated.
Yeah.
And also, I think I like how they can customize their little figures in the thing. It's just very personal. So
they can win points, but they can also lose points, right?
Yes, they can. Yep.
Okay. So tell us about, how do they win and how do they lose points?
So classroom management. will always be a struggle, I think. No matter how many resources
Yeah.
we can create in the world, it will always be a struggle.
Yeah.
But one of the ways that we keep people, like the students, on task is by removing points.
Yeah.
So when a student's acting out or it's causing distraction to the class, you know, we like to remove points, and that just helps them refocus and recenter on what it is that they're really here for. But then it also builds that rapport with the tutor, and it has that respect, so they understand like where they are as a student. And so
Yeah, great. And what do they do with the points?
so they cash them in. So for prizes, I think whenever I was a center manager, one of the prizes I would give students is cha time. So boba tea, for those of you that don't know what cha time is, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, and they
That's
also
really
like to get
cool.
pizza as well from Domino's. So
Nice. Yeah, well, downstairs, right?
Yeah.
That's where the Domino's is,
Yeah.
just downstairs. Yeah, so no, that's really good. So they're able to use the points to get prize. So kind of like an arcade, right?
yeah,
So it makes it really fun for the kids. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. And so tell us more about like what were some of, so we've spoken a lot about the really good things about working, you know, as a manager. What were some of the key challenges or the things that you found that we were, you know, that we found working at Success Tutoring?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges was probably we had a few students where I guess their progression fluctuates. And so being able to monitor that and then also like accommodate for that on a daily basis. One week you might have a student that comes in and they're really high performing and they're understanding the lessons, but then the following week they might be having a little bit of difficulty. And so just being able to reel it back in and just understand that it's not a straight path. It's not always going to be a straight path, but that's why we're here. That's why we're here to provide that personalized learning, to assist them and aid them, because like I said before, the school system doesn't always attend to those individual needs. So
Yeah. And I think that's something that we cover a lot in Success Academy, isn't it? It's that idea that every child is unique, and that's why it's so important to build the rapport first, because when you build that rapport with the student, then you can see, you know, they can progress much better in their academics. So for those that are considering the Success Tutoring franchise opportunity, what are some of the things that I suppose like we are going to be doing to provide them with support to be able to take the brand into their local communities?
yeah, so we offer training.
Yeah.
And I think the training is really good because it teaches you like the ins and outs of the business as well as the marketing behind it. And I guess the daily operations as well, in terms of like having to retain staff, members, and then how also to gain members as well. And I think something else that is really important is the fact that because we are here in the US, we have that personal support from me moving forward. So it'd be really great to have new franchisees and continue to work and progress through that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think localization is so important, right?
Absolutely.
I've seen so many times, and I've seen this with a lot of brands that are going into other countries, is that they think that the model that they have, just because it works in one country, it means it automatically work in another.
Yeah.
It's so far from the truth. And I
Right.
think it's really important to have the localization.
Right, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
every single country's culture is different. You
It
know,
is,
when you
yeah.
look at like Australia, New Zealand, the US, like, yes, they all speak English, but the culture is completely different. And so that also comes across with the education as well. The culture here is different from the Australia. So, yeah.
So what are some of the things that we're doing to make sure that the Success Tutoring model works very well, just as it's been very successful in Australia with 100+ sites? What are some of the things we're doing to make sure that it works here in the US?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, we are going to take the model, but use it with the US curriculum. So, that personalized learning will still be personalized relative to the US. So, I think it's a really good thing to have.
Great, that's really good. And I think from a marketing perspective as well, because there's so many Spanish-speaking
That's right.
people here, that's
Yeah.
a big thing, right?
Yeah, that'd be really good. And I think something that moving forward we should seek is also bilingual tutors.
Yep.
So that would be a really good opportunity for college students to be able to come in and get some money on the side, but then also really contribute to who the students are, because
Yep.
we have a large Hispanic and Latino population here in the US that's just continuing to grow. So
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's I think making sure that we're catering to all communities and all cultures is very important.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool.
So Michael, tell me, I guess, where you see yourself in the next few years as we expand to the US.
Well, I think, I mentioned this to you as well when we were on the Google Meets meeting yesterday, and it is the US is so large. there's so many states. Each state kind of feels like a different country.
Yeah.
Unlike Australia, you go to different states, and you can tell you're still in Australia. Whereas when you're in the US, California is so different from Texas. It's so different from Washington. Every state has its own culture and community, and I find that that's very exciting because it means that we can grow, not just in the US, but in also other countries. Because I really believe that because each state is different, it kind of feels like expanding into another country anyway. So there is a lot of plans for growth for Success Tutoring to become the global leaders in education, where we motivate, inspire, and uplift students to reach their full potential. Because I think that's really important. I think it's something that's missing actually from education.
Yeah, I would agree with you, definitely. And I think that right now, with the way that education system is, it's a bit rocky at the moment. And I think that we're definitely starting to see that whenever we look at the comparison in education levels with other countries. So I think it's really great that you've chosen US as your next base. So
Yep, and I'm really excited to work with you closely and make sure that we provide very, very good support to the franchise partners. I think it's very good. One thing that makes Success Tutoring really unique, and I get a lot of parents, and especially in the early days, parents used to ask me. They said, Michael, do you have qualified teachers? And my answer to that was, well, we hire college students.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Did you get that question a lot when you were managing the center?
Definitely, yeah. So when I was managing, that was usually one of the first questions parents would ask. And as a manager, I would also do the hiring process. So I would interview lots and lots of young uni students and just see where they're at. And one of the ways that we would determine whether a uni student was fit for the role was not only their energy and their personality, but then also like their marks or grades in school. And in the Australia, that's your ATAR, whereas in the US, it might be a little bit different in terms of your GPA. But yeah, definitely hiring those college students is really important, just because, like I said, they have that energy and they're able to be relatable with the students.
Yep.
And it also gives them an opportunity to, see where they see themselves moving in the future. And it really is the older generations pouring into the younger generations. So coming with that rapport and the camaraderie that we build within the businesses is really good. So
yeah, I think that's very important because I've seen, not just in Australia but in overseas markets as well, is that there's some tutoring businesses that only hire qualified teachers.
Yeah.
And that might have its advantages, but with Success Tutoring, I'll always stand by this point, is that having those college students that are in grade 1, 2, or 3 of college, really important, because they can ignite that passion and that motivation in kids, because it's not just about tutoring, it's about being a role model, it's being a mentor, being able to be there to support them.
Yeah. And then also speaking, like, for the organizations that do have tutors, for teachers that are tutors, it's great and everything like that, but this allows the college students to have a fresh mind coming in. They aren't teaching 8 hours a day and then coming to pour into the students. So it really just provides that freshness and uniqueness to the students. So
yeah, for sure. And with franchise partners considering a Success Tutoring franchise opportunity, as you know, they can do it in 2 main ways. One as an owner-operator, where they're the manager, or the second is as an investor. So regardless, there's going to need to be someone that's going to manage the center, right?
Yeah.
So if they're an owner-operator, they're the manager. If they're an investor, they hire a manager. So can you tell me a little bit more about what roles and responsibilities are connected with being a Success Tutoring center manager?
Yeah, so like I said before, being a center manager was probably my favorite job. It's really great because no 2 days are the same. And I think that's, sometimes we can have like the boring 9 to 5 office jobs, but this is truly like, it's such a personal job. Like, you build relationships with all these students and with the parents, and we have parents bringing us snacks and stuff like that quite often, so it was definitely an extra bonus. But being a center manager is, it's great in that you get to build your staff up, you get to know the students better, and you deal with like the financial aspect of things and the interview processing and the marketing in terms of bringing the students in, and then also the exiting of the students. And just making sure that you maintain that rapport with them. And I think something else that, like, you do a lot of the behind the scenes, whether that's preparing the folders for the students, making sure there's like enough supplies for the organization. And so it's really great.
Yeah. And I think being and this is a really good thing about being a manager at Success Tutoring in a center, is that it's not a 9 to 5 role, is it?
No, it's not.
It's after it's after school hours, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the franchise partners that we've brought on board in Australia and other countries is a lot of them work full time. And
Yeah.
they do this as well on the side. And a lot of them, it's kind of like a bit of a side hustle initially. And then once the business is, up and doing really, really well, then they'll leave their full-time work and they'll do this full time.
Yeah, and I think that's really great because it provides that option for you, whether you want to be completely involved in the everyday aspect or whether
Yep.
you just want to have someone like myself come in and manage the center. So
And I think one thing that's contributed significantly to the growth of Success Tutoring has definitely been the fact that we have the foundation membership aspect, right?
yeah, I think that's amazing. I think it's a really like successful start straight off the bat because you have a certain number of members already there from the get-go before you even operate or open the business. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when I was speaking with Alan, who is the head of global partnerships, and you may also know him, which is part of our team, is the ex-CEO of Kumon. When I said to him, when I was first speaking with him, and he used to do a lot of consulting for me and for Success Tutoring initially before he joined our team, when I said to him, hey, look, many of our locations will have between 50 to 100 foundation members from day one, he looked at me in shock and he was like, really? Wow. And so I think that's really a game changer. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Michael, would you be able to tell me a bit more of how you guys get to that point though?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think with what we do is we have a strategy very similar to how a gym membership operates, right? So we do marketing for 12 weeks before the business opens, and that's foundation members. So what that means is we provide members that are looking at joining Success Tutoring at specific discount, and they receive that before the business actually opens.
Wow, that's really great.
Yeah.
That's really great.
So it's really, really good because what it does is as well is it provides a very strong foundation for a lot of these centers. So the break even for a center like this is usually between 40 to 50 members. It does depend on each location, of course, but it's usually about 40 to 50. So when a business starts with 50 members, what that means is a lot of the time it's actually cash flow positive from the first week of operation, which makes it very, very lucrative for a lot of investors, but also franchise partners.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you hired the ex-CEO of Kumon. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Well, Alan, I did a podcast, and for those that are watching this and listening to this podcast, you can watch that one as well. But Alan's a terrific guy, really, really good. He ran Kumon in Australia, Singapore, New Zealand.
Wow.
And he's got a lot of experience, and he's been very good at assisting us with the growth of Success Tutoring, not just in Australia but abroad as well. And as you can imagine, with so much experience, such a large brand such as Kumon, there's a lot of knowledge that he could share with us.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, you got to defeat the competitor somehow. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having competitors is not it's not a bad thing. I think it's great because everybody is in the industry to provide the best for the kids.
Right.
But I do firmly believe that what we do at Success Tutoring really does separate us from a lot of educational businesses out there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited to see how we take on the U.S. and I guess whenever we open our first franchise here and how things are going to look. So
yeah, definitely. And I'm really excited to see you provide that support to the franchise partners on a local basis, because Australia is a very long way away from the US. It's like 14 hours from Sydney to LA.
Yeah.
It is not a short flight. So I think that provides a lot of comfort and reassurance to a lot of franchise partners considering the Success Tutoring franchise opportunity to have you there with them.
Yeah, I'm excited to build those relationships with them and just have them know that, we're doing this together. It's not like they're reporting to us or vice versa. Like it's about building that team together to help us expand and grow. And
Exactly. And a lot of franchise partners, they ask me, Michael, what sort of training do you provide? And I always say to them, the training is we have a 2-week training program that's online. Then we have a 3-month onboarding process. And that 3-month onboarding process is providing the support for franchise partners from the start of their business all the way up to the grand opening. And, that's really important. The first, 3 months of the business is so important and so vital for that growth.
Could you elaborate a bit more, I guess, what it looks like before opening and that support and then after?
Yeah, so we've got like an onboarding manager. So an onboarding manager provides the franchise partners with support. So that goes for 3 months. It's from the start of the business all the way up to the grand opening. So every step, so from hiring staff to giving the staff access to the software required, negotiating the commercial lease, doing any shopping center promotions, running any ads, pretty much everything that that's involved. There's like a checklist of over 200 points that they complete over those 3 months. It's quite detailed. And then after that, they've got a growth and performance manager, which is you, which provides them the ongoing support, which is both online and in person, and it ensures that they are very well supported. And it's like you're pretty much like a business coach, providing them with that support.
That's really great.
Because I remember when you were working at Liverpool Centre, we only had 5 sites at that point.
Yeah.
And then when you had left after working with us for a year, you said to me, "I really want to join. I want to join you back, and I'll manage many of your sites." Remember that?
Yep.
And then and I said to you, actually, just before we filmed this, I said to you, actually, in my gut, I wasn't really sure if we were gonna get that big.
You did.
And we eventually did, and now you'll be managing and providing support to franchise partners across the US, which I'm very, very excited about.
Yeah, me too. And so you picked Dallas as your home base here in the US. So can you explain why you picked Dallas?
Well, I've done a lot of research across the US, and I think Dallas is a very, very good city. I think there's a lot of need for education there. There's also quite a bit of tutoring businesses there already. Now, having tutoring businesses in a city such as Dallas is a good thing, because from our experience in Australia, having competitors is a good thing, because it means that there's a strong demand for the service.
Right.
So a lot of franchise partners say, "Oh, well, have you heard of Kumon? Have you heard of this? Have you heard of this?" And I say, "I have." But you also need to know that Success Tutoring is different. We do things differently.
Right.
And so, there is a market for students that want to go to Kumon, and there is a market for those that want to go to Success Tutoring.
Right.
Now, there are some students and parents that are going to come and try Success Tutoring. They're going to love it. They're going to stay. But there's some that are going to come, and then they're going to want to go to Kumon again, for example, which is completely fine. But the reality is that that there is a market for it, and having a large number of tutoring businesses in an area is actually a really good thing.
Yeah, and I guess I just have another question. How do you choose the territories?
Yeah,
like how does that work? What's that process?
that's a really good question. So we've mapped out Dallas, and so and other parts of the US as well. And so how it works is a territory typically has about 50 to 60,000 people in it, and about 10,000 kids. That's generally how it is, and we've mapped it out. So we've got an online territory map that's available on our website. That's free for anybody to access, and it's actually color coded as well.
Oh, nice.
So it's green, yellow, and red. So green is available, yellow is reserved, and red is sold. That's pretty much what it is. And we've got it available for anyone to access, so they can see the different territories. And when you click on a territory, it also gives you some statistics. So it tells you a little bit about the population, the median income, the number of kids, number of schools. It also tells you which schools. So it's just a really good and detailed foundational understanding of, okay, which area am I looking at? And this is the local area that I'm targeting, and this is where I want to focus.
What would you say is probably the greatest territory at the moment in Dallas?
Oh, that's a well. What I always say to franchise partners is the area that you want to be focusing on, you want to know it well, right? Because every territory is different, and we've learnt that in Australia and other countries as well. The most important thing is making sure we provide a good service for that community, because every community is different. And so, what we've noticed holistically across Success Tutoring is that there is a very large percentage of Indian and Chinese ethnicities that choose tutoring. I'm not saying that's the only place that that's the only clientele that we offer, but it is a big thing, right? You would have noticed that as well, managing the Liverpool Centre.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, those definitely the demographics were
Yeah.
pretty similar there in the
Yeah.
Liverpool Center. So
Yeah, and so I think just understanding the demographic very well is really important, and being local. I
yeah,
think having a center near your home is
yeah,
a really good thing, and this is something Alan used to always say to me as well. Is it's really important the franchise partners. It's close to their home. It needs to be something that it's easily accessible as well, because it's a lifestyle change.
it is.
It,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
not like it's not like you can run centers that are away from your home, but the most ideal is one that's very close to it.
yeah, and like it's building a community as well. Even in the school holidays, we have like different activities that we run, like the coding and creative writing, and it's a good time for the students to just do something a little bit different. But then
Yeah.
like you're still building that relationship in the process, and so it's really great.
Yeah, and I think school holidays are one of my favorite things because what we do is we teach kids things that they won't typically learn at school.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to just expand their skill set. And personally, one of my favorite activities was movie night every time it was school
Uh,
holidays. Like,
was that because of the pizza?
the,
Pizza was great.
the pizza, and it was always a big debate as to what movie we were gonna watch. So
Yeah, definitely,
yeah.
definitely. And I loved when the parents would come in with the food as well for the kids, and they'd share
Yes.
it. It's like a
Yeah.
really good environment, and it just builds that very strong community.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also like the students would sometimes bring their friends, so it also is like a little bit of a marketing in and of itself as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I found that it really helped for the community aspect, but then also our friends and family and people would always come, and it provides a very good learning environment for
Yeah.
sure.
So how's it like being in the US? Or this is your second time, right?
Yeah, this is my second time. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I traveled to many states. I think one of my favorites probably gonna be LA. LA was really really fun. Love In and Out. I've told you this many
Yep.
times.
Quite obsessed with it.
There's nothing like it in Australia. McDonald's is very popular, but In and Out, just the quality is like so good. So I've just loved it so much. I've been eating that a lot. I did joke and say to you every time I'm in the US, I feel like I'm gaining a little bit of extra weight.
Yeah, food's
But
quite different.
it is very different. But one thing that I really like about the US is the fact that each state feels like it's a different country,
Yeah.
and everyone has like their own little accents as well. So yeah.
That's what everyone says, but whenever you ask like a local in each state, they're like, what accent? Like nobody ever knows. But
Yeah, for sure.
and you finally tried some authentic Mexican food.
I did. Did you see the photo that I sent you?
I did.
Yeah.
Besides getting a little bit sick, how did it taste?
Well, it was very good. There was this thing I tried, and I'm not sure what it's called, but it was like it had apparently had like 12 ingredients on it, and one of the ingredients was chocolate, and it was like a
Oh.
dip. It was really really nice, and I had that, and then I had a few other bits and pieces there, but it was really good. It was the guac was like so much better than in Australia. And I think that's what you did say to me,
Yeah.
and yeah, I fully get it now. So
So Guzman and Gomez or the U.S. Mexican?
Nah, US Mexican
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, I understand why GYG is very popular in Australia because there isn't really something that has
Yeah.
been able to compete very well with them, and they're very good at what they do in Australia. But yeah, the authentic stuff is here in the States.
Yeah, and you get to go to DC soon.
Yeah, that's
So-
right. Yeah, really looking forward to that as well. So just doing a lot of it, exploring and finding out, different areas, a bit of market research, but also a little bit of a holiday, I suppose. Get to see different parts of the US and see where Success Tutoring can expand to next.
Yeah, it's really great. It'd be great to see, I guess, what it looks like 10 years from now. I think we're going to be all across the country in ways we couldn't have imagined. So,
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Just like you had, you mentioned that when we were in Liverpool Centre, five sites. You could also see that vision for the brand, and I think even though in my intuition I was like, oh, I don't know if we're gonna get there, but now that we are and we continue to grow, I think it's really looking amazing, and we've got a very strong support system and a very strong team to be able to provide that support to franchise partners.
yeah, having that vision is definitely a must have.
Yeah,
as
for
a
sure.
franchisee. So I think it's going to be great to see who we come across and,
Yeah.
the drive that they have and the passion as well. So
Yeah, well, we're very looking forward to us, seeing those individuals that are looking at owning a Success Tutoring franchise to come and speak with us, and we'll be more than happy to share with you a little bit about Success Tutoring, what we do, and see if it's a good opportunity. Because at the end of the day, it is a long-term commitment,
it
right?
is, yeah.
It's not something that they can just like walk away from. It's like once you're in, you're committed for a
Yeah.
certain amount of time, right? So you got to really make sure it's the right decision, for them, but also for us, because it's a real partnership. It's not just like franchisor and franchisee. It's actually more meaningful than that. It's a real meaningful partnership where we work together to make sure it's successful.
It's a team effort.
It sure is, yeah.
And we got a great team to back everyone up. So
We definitely do. Yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's so good to have a chat with you today, Isabelle. I'm really looking forward to the future. We're going to have an amazing year. I'm sure we're going to be, 1 year from now, we're going to be sitting back and we'll be like, wow, look how far Success Tutoring has come, not just in Australia, not just New Zealand and other countries, but also in the US. And really glad to be with you here today in the United States, doing the official launch for Success Tutoring.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Michael.